Hi there.
Hello, hello.
Are we the only ones here so far?
So far, it's just us.
Okay, I'm doing this on my phone, so I can't tell.
It's all good.
Have you guys, maybe we're discussing it today at the meeting. I haven't opened the agenda yet. Discussed designer runs in rehearsal?
We haven't specifically talked about that yet, but we can ask Teresa.
Yeah, we'll do that as part of today. I just figured, hey, I've got a stage manager on the.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we haven't.
Stage manager related question.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll add that into the agenda really quick here.
Great. And maybe I'll sign in because I'm having to do this from my phone. I've got to sign in from a computer I don't usually use to get the agenda.
Gotcha.
Pulled up. I'll mute myself so you don't have to listen to my clacking.
All good.
Hi, friends. Just to clarify, I don't know if Doris shared this, but Doris will not be able to attend today, or will be on some, if she can attend, I believe it'll be like at the end, or let's just assume that she's not going to make it. But
got it.
So I saw Doris. Is this Doris Black again?
yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I I only saw the first name in the rehearsal report. Great.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Doris Black is our costume designer.
Excellent.
Ready to hit the ground running tonight. So
there you go. He needs to be with the time frame.
Absolutes. Welcome back, Andrea.
Right.
And Matt Clark is here.
Yep. Sounds like he'll be muted for the first half of this, which is totally fine. We'll just wait a couple more minutes for any stragglers to fall in, and then we'll get started. The link to the agenda is in the chat if you don't already have it pulled up. And excuse me while I have some chili for lunch. Oh, yes.
And to clarify, I added a document into the general things at the end. It may or may not pertain to you, but it is a very complicated map of performances that we are navigating.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Go. Make sure everything we have is pulled up here. And then just want to check in really quick, Justin, are you needing to leave early for this, or are you able to stay for the whole hour?
I can stay for the whole hour.
Okay, sounds good. Just wanted to get the schedule.
Yep. Yep. I only have a few notes for Matilda today, and then it opens tomorrow. So I'm not in a huge push anymore.
Sounds good. Sounds good. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's adorable.
I love that. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, as Teresa mentioned earlier, Doris Black has joined us as our costume designer, which we are very thankful for. She'll be with us in rehearsal tonight, as well as Andrea, which is going to be very exciting. I'm really happy to have you in the room. Just starting out with schedule really quick since we're here. There were questions, Teresa, about if we wanted to schedule designer runs before we get into the space, and if you have a goal for when that would be.
Yeah, I was gonna, oh, darn, I wish I'd remembered to put all those pieces together before this meeting. I'm so sorry. Yes, I think I had them. Let me look over my notes on that and then circle back to that, so I don't may have everyone hanging while I look that up.
Okay, sounds good. Then while you're looking at that, let's just go straight to scenic. So Brian or Justin, if you have anything you'd like to ask or need to let us know about, go ahead.
For in terms of water action in the show, I think I sent a drawing last night to some of you. Their new drawings are uploaded in the shared drive and the scenic drive, with some shower thoughts of how that might work out, and I will be testing that stuff out over the next few days just to make sure that gravity feed with that bucket at 8 foot is going to have the kind of water pressure that we want. I'll probably go ahead and purchase the shower head, so that way I'm testing it with the actual thing we'll be using. I'm planning on 2 minutes of active running water. So in rehearsal, if you could track the timing of how much water on time as opposed to water off and soaping up or whatever, that would be helpful, so that sort of the duration of time that water is actively running is going to be really important. And so I kind of thought through it in my imagination of how that process might work in terms of with the text and the dialogue. And I think 2 minutes will be okay, but it would be helpful to know that pretty soon. Planning on a 5-gallon bucket for the holding tank, the sort of supply reservoir or whatever, that will have a heating element in. And planning on 4 of those 5 gallons being used during the course of the action of the play, but want there to be some buffer left in case things go wrong for some reason. Typical shower head runs at 2 gallons a minute for flow. So that's our 4 of the 5 available gallons.
Gotcha.
Also, there will be some water that's left in the bottom of it because the drain, unless we have the drain at the very bottom, I don't know, anyway. And then the reservoir that catches, the catch basin underneath, will have a capacity of 7 gallons. So we've got some buffer there that we're not going to have more potential than we have for space to catch it in. And that will make Adam happy, I'm sure. So so I think all those things are going to be okay. It's still a question of water pressure. The other thing will be you need to find out where electrical circuit is back there for that heating element. It will need to be unplugged before the action of the shower scene. I got a heating element with a thermostat on it, so we can have it be thermostatically controlled, but want to make sure that that it's unplugged before the shower sequence happened. It shouldn't have a short in it, but shouldn't isn't good enough. So we need to make sure that it's unplugged because we don't want electricity flowing into our actor. So that'll be something to work out in the space.
Would it make Would it make sense to have that on controlled by the board? Or you want it absolutely unplugged?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think um, yeah, I think I would be more comfortable if I haven't looked at the entrance just before that scene, but I think um, uh, Jess is backstage just before that and coming out to do the shower. And so she could unplug that and know that it's physically unplugged before she starts that sequence. I would be most comfortable with that.
Okay.
I think that would also be the shortest extension cord, which is going to be helpful for something that's high wattage like that. But,
Okay.
but I'm open to whatever other folks think would be most safe too.
Hmm. Okay. Anyone have any questions for Scenic?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Like, so you're buying the shower head, and you're gonna play with the bucket that we're gonna have. And is there what all else should I acquire before load in day regarding the shower? Like, I can get the handles that are in there. I can get the plexi.
Yeah, I'll get the faucet, the shower head, and so we can wait to cut those holes and install it until I get there with that stuff. But you can get everything else, and I'll get the hoses that'll connect them all together.
Okay, so you'll basically get everything that it is going to take to run the water.
Yeah.
And then what do you know about the drain and tank? Like, is that something you could get, or find it on Amazon, send me a link, and I could buy it and I could play around with it?
The drain thing, I think you'll want to build that to fit with the scenery and the floor, and we can talk maybe more about that. In the drawings I drew up how that could work, but I think it's just going to be a continuous basin that fits the shape of underneath and around the floor, and then with pool liner that's lining the whole thing up and over the edges, and then that whatever that grate material is, that could be anything that'll just fit that shape, but probably is something you'd have to cut down to fit in the space that you've got for floor. But
Okay, yeah, we can chat about that further
yeah,
later.
sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds good. But I think that'll all be built stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And that drawing looked great. So
okay,
cool. We can chat more later too.
sounds good.
All right. Anything else for Scenic?
The stool I noticed in the rehearsal report last night is about the same height as the table. So we'll either need to get a taller table or shorter stool. But knowing what target of height that we want to go for will be helpful. If that stool is a good height, then we can look for a taller table, or if the tables.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be much taller. And I noticed that Jessamine had something that was adjustable, so I don't know if it's that adjustable.
It is not. It doesn't get tall enough to for the seat that that was brought in for rehearsal. So if we want to go with that seat that's there for rehearsal, if we like that height and style and everything, I'll take a look for a different table. It looks like it'll put us in the extra tall bar height according to the information that was sent out previously.
It looks like a smaller, it looks like a little bit shorter bar stool than than I've had to climb onto at times. If the look looks good, he's a very tall actor. And so I think if we go any lower than that, it'll add an odd dynamic for him.
Mhm.
And I don't feel a need to have a table that is at drinking level. I think it can be lower than that. Understandably, you might not want it at exactly the same height as the table, but I'm okay with it as the chair, excuse me. So I'm okay with it being a table that is just sort of conveniently there to hold the phone and the drink, and not necessarily the idea of sitting at a table that would be at eating height. That makes sense.
Yeah. And just to confirm, it's 35 inches to the top of the seat of that stool. Okay. Yeah. The table that I got, the tallest height for it is 36.5 inches. So probably that's going to be a little bit too low for us. I can bring it in for rehearsal purposes so that we at least have something to work with.
Lovely.
But then I probably will look for something a little taller.
Okay, if you can do that, that would be wonderful. Just
Totally.
test it out and who knows, maybe it'll magically work.
Yeah, I think I'd probably prefer something a little taller if that we can. I didn't see a photo of the stool. If someone could send that along, that'd be delightful.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe I just missed it.
It was in the rehearsal report. I was able to see it.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So maybe
I will-
it's a communication with different computers. Sometimes
Yeah.
that happens.
Oh, hey, look at that. Great. Yeah, great. I see that. Thank you for putting that in the chat. Yeah, I think either if something with a darker wood would be nice for the tabletop, rather than white if we can, or if we're going to have a tablecloth on it or something like that, that would be fine too. Yeah, but the coloring of that is the stool is nice. So maybe finding something that
The
lives in
actor
that
really
world.
likes it.
Yeah.
And just to
Yeah.
clarify, it's 35 inches from the top of the back to the floor, not from the seat to the floor.
Oh.
Okay, so in
Aha.
that case, the table that I have might work. I think I would want to either, put a tablecloth like you're mentioning, or put like a faux wood finish, like contact paper even on top, just so that it does match the chair a little bit better. But yeah, let's try that table out and see what we think.
Thanks for
Okay.
clarifying that, everyone. That was my
Yes.
gut instinct being in the space, so
Okay. Yeah, if you could pull a height to the seat, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll measure it when I get into the space today.
Thank you.
All
And I
right.
think there was another comment about the table since we're on it, just that one of the things I want him to be able to do is kind of smack down on it. Will not be sitting on it, will not be climbing on it, will not be dancing on it, but I'd love for it to not be so fragile that he can kind of hit it securely, and have that kind of percussive, a sense of it being kind of secure. So I just want to check with you about that, Jesse.
Yeah, that should be just fine. It seems pretty sturdy. I actually had to like lie down on top of it to get it to like depress back to its low height. So I know that it actually is like not too fragile.
Perfect, thank you.
All right,
Yay.
sounds good. Anything else for Scenic?
I just wanted to update that we have begun in the scene shop. The granite stone floor, yeah, finally, yep, has been cut, separated into its sheets and all cut out, and layout, base coat and then layout has begun. So now it's just doing the individual stones all over the whole place. And then I had a question about reimbursements, because last meeting there was a mention that there's a new way. Has there been an email explaining the new way? How can we get that going?
Alita and Castor should have access to all the new way with Riley. So Riley, our business manager, set up a new form. I believe it's going to be a very simple form. I haven't used it, so I don't want to pretend that I'm an expert on it. But Riley knows from our staff meeting the other day that this connection needs to happen between production and business. And that's the best I can tell you at this moment, other than just sending a message to Riley right away. So we'll make sure that Alita and Castor corral that information for you, Justin.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just a new form that has a place where you can put documentation in it, and then clarity on when it gets sent to you and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I did like the uploading of receipts to the drive that Rosemary had going.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay, cool.
Good to know. Thank you.
All right. If no one else has anything for scenic, I think let's transition into props, since we've already started that discussion a little bit. Jessamine, do you have anything to update us on in terms of that?
I was wondering if there's going to be any reference images for specific furniture looks. If not, that's totally fine. And I can put together some reference images just to make sure we're on the same page. I'm looking for the right type of items. Either way is totally fine with me.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't done that.
No
Yeah, I
worries.
can send a prop and furniture packet of reference images. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then I think I have a few questions about some of the notes from rehearsal reports, but I'll probably just do a separate email about that.
Okay, sounds good. Does anyone have any questions for props?
I do.
Let's do it.
Is there any update on the bathtub sourcing?
I have not had a chance to do that yet, but I will make some time for that in the next couple of days. Yeah, I'm building some stuff for a couple other shows, or for one other show, so I've been kind of caught up in that. So I will definitely prioritize that for the next.
I totally understand that. So
Yeah.
Something looks like Danielle has a question.
I have a question about would it be costume or props about towels, hair dryers, that's sort of keeping the actors healthy and safe and warm, I guess, after the scenes?
I don't know that would neatly fall into either one, but I am picking up some towels anyhow for prop towels that are needed. So I could just find some extra large bath towels. And I don't know if we want to get robes, anything like that, or if people need a cover up basically. But just let me know about that.
Oh, Danielle, and just thank you so much for those questions and those thoughts. I mean, I've been thinking about the towels and things that we will use on stage because they are part of the action, but you're absolutely right. We need to have a really good set of actor support for backstage for this, as well as thinking about what might happen that we don't foresee with water in humans. So thank you both so much for that. And we'll check with production.
All right, anything else for props? Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
The art on the walls, who will do that? Those will be painted. They're pretty simple, but some sort of framed could be painted on scraps of the lawn or masonite or something like that.
Is that something that would fall under like a scenic painter type of role? If not, I could probably work on it, but I would say that I am competent at painting, but not great at it.
Justin, is that something that you got on your list?
That is not something that's been on my list. I would need to check with Paint to see if that fits in the timeline. Although that could be worked on like during load-in week. Because it's going to be a time crunch to get this floor done and the prep for the rest of the set too. So yeah, I'll check with Paint on that. Yeah, that was not on my radar. My assumption was that would be like a sourced prop somehow. But do you have, and I'm sorry if you do have this and I've missed it, but do you have like an elevation of those, like single source files of them?
I can do that.
Okay.
They're in the model and sized and all of that stuff. So, I'll do an elevation of those.
Okay, cool. I will update next week on that answer.
Okay, yeah, and I'm looking at those at the images from the elevations, and those do look like something I would feel comfortable with painting if scenic painting does not have time.
Cool, great. And then the plants and things, is that something that is on your list, Jessamine?
It is, yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if you want to send specific reference images or like specific types of plants to be looking out for or anything like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll include that stuff in the reference images then.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
I did donate some plants, some artificial plants to TPA or to Sound Theater last year or the year before. I do not know where they are currently, but they might be in storage.
All right. Any last things for props?
If there is some stuff in stock in a storage space, I would love to be able to look at whatever is there.
And
Okay.
I don't know if we can borrow from Deaf Spotlight for their show that they did. They had just a ton of plants and flowers. So I don't know, maybe we could borrow those.
All righty. Sounds good. Any last things for props? If not, let's go ahead and move to lighting. Richard, if you have any updates for us.
Yeah. I put a preliminary light plot and related paperwork into the drive, including preliminary cue list for stage management, which is just basically ins and outs of scenes, but it gives you numbers to put into a script if you want. The other thing is just our load-in schedule. I'm currently working under the assumption that we will hang lights on the 22nd and then return on Thursday, the 25th to do focus. And in response to the question on the thing, yes, I need help because I have reached out to all my people and none of them are available. And this is the list that most of the people I contacted were actually a list from Rosemary. So we shouldn't be dipping into that same well again of pulling Rosemary's. So if somebody's going for a list, I can provide them with the people I've reached out to. But yeah, my old reliables are not available including Rob Falk, who's always been a great one for us, but he's going to be out of town, unfortunately. And I would say I really need one, and I would really like to have two people. I think that should be adequate for the size of the space that we're dealing with and the ladders we're dealing with. I still don't know. I haven't seen anything specific about coordinating schedule with Strawberry Theater Workshop with their load in. They may not have a great need for ladders, depending on what their lighting plan is, because you don't necessarily need ladders to reach most of the lighting positions, but I just don't know what their load in looks like. And I did not see a clear response from Adam Holst about the ladder question when Casser sent that.
Yeah,
But I don't want to throw another set of people into the thing. I just want to keep that between Adam and Castor, I think, mostly. I don't want to throw myself in there and then muddy the works.
yeah, I do need to follow up with Adam.
Okay.
Because for those of you who are on that email, you saw it go a little sideways.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Adam. I gave Adam a call and was like, man, how do I reply to this in a way that doesn't make me sound really as upset as I am at Greg right now? And then Adam said that he would talk to Greg in person the next day, and then I haven't gotten an update. So I could try to get an update from Adam today, and I could just mention the ladder thing, and then Adam might hop into the email with both answers.
Right.
So
Yeah, I just didn't want to throw another voice because I saw the way the thread was going. It's like, I don't want to throw. It didn't seem like it needed more voices. Thank you, Justin.
Yep.
The other question I had is, I don't know what Sound Theater current status on if there's, I don't think we need much, but if we have any tie line or gaff tape in stock. It's just always good to have some at any load in. I have very little I'm expecting to do that's not going to be in the air for this show, lighting wise. The only stuff is behind the window, and I don't think I'll need much in the way of tape or anything for that because it'll be in an enclosed space. That is a space that, however you're enclosing that, Justin, it will need to be accessible in case somebody needs to get back in there after.
The window?
Yeah, behind the window, I had asked that it be enclosed so that it's basically a light box to the wall.
Mhm.
But we need to be able, to pop a couple screws or, swing a hinge to be able to get access in case there's an issue with the lights that I'll have behind there.
Okay, understood.
And I may need to throw in a chunk of wood to attach a light to above the window, depending on what the structure is.
Yeah, that should be doable.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I just thought I'd mention it since we're talking about it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions or concerns. If anyone has any problem with the dates I've thrown out there, or if there are specific hours on those dates that are being used for other things, I need to know that. So we can schedule around each other. I know, Justin, you're going to start loading in the afternoon on the 22nd. So I was going to start on the booth end, the north end with light hang, so that we'd be out of your way by the time you came in to start setting up that end, and we'll be working on the south end more because you wouldn't get to that till later, was my understanding from our last week conversation.
Great, that sounds great. Because I was thinking a question that I forgot I wanted to ask you until just now is the best place to put the set while you're there in the morning. So I think maybe in the dead center. You'll start on the north end, and then when I get there, I'll migrate it, to the north end.
Probably. I will probably be there by the time you're there, and we can also touch base when, at the time. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's no perfect place.
Yeah.
So cool.
Okay,
Teresa.
and yeah, Teresa.
Yeah, just chiming in again because Richard requested I put in a potential design run. It's only one day as an option, but it doesn't to start off with, just Saturday, May 20th for 2 hours for a run. Sometime at Aspire between 11 and 4. Richard, what is that for you?
I'm checking right now.
Okay, thanks. And then the other thing is I realize we haven't talked about, and I'm only bringing this up in lighting because I know it also involves up things that hang it, things that are in the roof, is we've never really talked about the snow and the possibility of the snow that comes down that I'm still
Thank you.
hoping is a reality. And again, I don't think, I mean, I think it can be fairly contained and very, very suggestive in terms of a very light but substantial snowflake that is, it's a light snowing of a large flake. So I just would love for us to keep that conversation going and think where that will be. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be around where the door frame is, and if we can make that happen. And the other thing is we do have, just to confirm for sure, Brian, your intention is that there is not a door in the door frame for the final scene, correct? It is a door frame. And so what I have explained that will probably happen for Richard and Brian is that as opposed to her opening the door and coming back into the space, she will step into a light that'll
Mhm.
bring her back into the space when she makes that very important
Decision.
kind of climactic decision to step back into the room.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking a door was necessary or
That's fine.
helpful. Might be.
I'd love to make
problematic.
that, frame that moment. I mean, it's written so that he's a little afraid that there's a ghost coming in, because he's a little haunted. But I think that sense that if she makes that bold step to return to the apartment, and that if there is a way that light and snow and things can help heighten that moment, would be fabulous. The only other thing I want to show in here too is just reinforce Mona, myself, and Michael to make sure our production team watch this video.
Sounds good. Yes, indeed. All right. Any other questions or notes for lighting? All right. Let's go ahead and move on to sound.
Sorry,
Oh.
just to say the 20th looks fine. That was the only, I was just looking at calendars to make sure.
Great. And I can, the other thing will be when we get to sound, ask Max about that timing. I'm so sorry if other people had scheduled things they told me and this doesn't work for them. I'm
Yeah.
trying to hold all those schedules. So thank you.
All right. Yeah, let's officially move down to sound. Any updates, Max?
Hi. That was a question about the designer run, if that was possible for me.
Is that
Yeah.
day work for you?
Ideally as close to 11 as possible, like the earlier end would be better. I could make that work.
Let's plan on 11:30 go. It'll go from 11:30 to 1:30.
All right.
I'm going to give ourselves longer than the runtime of the show for anything at this stage of rehearsal. It will barely be staged at that point. There'll be a lot of loose and easy staging. But yeah, we'll explain that when we get there. But I do think giving ourselves a full 2 hours for it will be good. But let's plan for 11:30 go.
Okay, great. On my end, I saw the note in the agenda about speakers hanging in their position. I did decide to move them from their rep position because based on that plot that I was sent last production meeting, they're already going to be way different from where they are in the corners. So I uploaded that into the sound folder in the Google Drive. Yeah, I don't know who's going to take charge of that, but if you have any questions, let me know. Aside from that, I don't have a lot of updates.
let's get a
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah,
Yes. Should we schedule that now or over email?
Why don't you send me an email of times that work for you? And then I'm going to be out of town. So, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Okay,
So if we did it
Okay.
before, that might just give you more time.
great. And that's to talk about the musicians, correct?
Right. And how we're
Right.
going to approach all this.
And how we're gonna figure it out. Great, love it.
So
Okay.
I will look at, I don't have access to the folder on my work computer evidently. So I will look at your plot for your speaker placement and compare it to the light plot, make sure we don't have any conflicts.
It it seemed like, I mean, it's very far, it's like on the center of the alley on way far on either end, basically sort of like two speakers and two above different apartments. So it
You mean right
shouldn't
where I
be-
might have a lot of lights too?
Really? Well, I guess, okay, maybe I don't understand what the plan is. We'll talk about it. We can.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Okay.
I just wanted to acknowledge that the grid is shared between us both and
Yeah.
we need to
Yes.
find something that works for both of us.
Absolutely, yeah.
all
Um,
right.
Yeah, anything else from me? Cool.
I think we're good. All right, let's move on to dramaturgy. Andrea, if you have anything for us.
No, as far as I know, everything's okay, so.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Then let's go ahead and move down to Danielle and accessibility. If there's any questions or updates, let's go over that now.
There we go. I do have a question, I guess tech wise. One of our performances is a sensory performance. So I'm not sure who our target audience is. So the lighting and sound is going to have to be adjusted. If it's for the deafblind community, then everything is going to have to be heightened, brighter light. But if it's more for the autistic community, it's going to be definitely the sound needs to be quieter and definitely paying attention to light cues. So that's just something I want to throw out there for the designers to go, hey, there's going to, not to surprise you, but we're going to have a separate thing for that. And if there's, I guess, Michael, if there's any way at one point we can have a rehearsal with the actors beforehand, so they can get used to the lighting and sound, so it's not thrown at them last minute. So they can go, okay, this cue that I'm normally used to, it's quiet. So that's just something want to be mindful of.
Thank you. Yeah, the sensory performance is definitely for folks on the spectrum targeted. So that is the way that we've looked at that is just bringing down, bringing up the house lights. So not a drastic change in light cues. I don't think we're going to have a lot of light cues that would be at this point, but it's good to have someone come in who could be in the space and think only about that as they're watching it, to provide some feedback. And then we do bring the sound levels down, particularly for any sudden or loud sound cues. Again, I think I anticipate that, well, we'll find out with that. And then for your question about deafblind, that would be more for the tactile tour performance, which is good for production to know. That actually is going to require an early start, an early gathering, and we're going to need to get some things on some calendars about when that would begin. That's a Sunday matinee, I believe. And
Yeah,
I'm probably
sorry, for sensory performance, the sections of the show that I would be most concerned about lighting wise would be the top and end of the show, when we're sort of in an isolated pool of light in the middle of the space, rather than in the two larger scenic areas if those would be an issue for Sensory, particularly the bar scene. And I'm happy to do any adjustment we need to. But we need to get somebody who can answer that question to be present at some point during our tech rehearsals.
Yeah.
And perhaps dedicate a chunk of time, maybe an hour, maybe more, maybe a full run through to Sensory performance. If we need to.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for accessibility? Okay, sounds good. Anyone have any general questions? Anything popped up, come to mind to address now?
I just want to reinforce again about the snow. I'm not sure if that falls into sets, props, ends up on the lighting grid, backstage production. I just want to circle around that again to see how that, if we know, if other than I just kind of saying it to the universe, if there's actually a process where that needs to land in our thinking.
I
Sorry.
would go ahead, whoever was speaking.
Oh, I just want to confirm we're talking about specifically like a snowfall box from the grid. I would say that would probably the sourcing of the snow, whatever material we're using for that would fall under props, but not necessarily like the rigging of the snowfall box.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I would agree with, I could probably supply, because we're talking about a very small amount of snow, I could possibly supply some snow. The operation of it is part of a running crew question, which probably at this point in the process would fall to production management to figure out, we've got to figure out that we have a person to do it. And where it might be able to be operated from, I think is one of the biggest issues with this space.
It could operate from the booth.
Okay.
Because this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is center stage, right?
Mhm.
Along
Correct.
the line
Yeah.
of the wagon.
Hmm.
So
Center and center west.
Yeah.
yes. Okay. So it's at the door, but not the whole length of the wagon, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, a line could maybe be ran from there to the booth.
So so there are holes in the wall? Because that's, I'm not as familiar with the studio space
There
to run through, like conduit holes.
there is a conduit hole to run through the
Yeah.
wall. It is on, like, if you're in the booth, it's on the left-hand side, like right in between the desk and the ladder.
So it's sort of more the center of the space
Yeah.
rather than the west. So we'd have an angle, but that shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I could see doing, if it was a simple, small, I've done the dump of leaves, dump of something that you want to have a maintained snow is a much more involved process.
Okay.
Getting some kind of a snow bag that can continue to, or a snow cylinder. But if it's a single dump of a small amount, I mean, it's two different things. It's more complicated if you're doing the bag. I could probably be a source for the plastic snowflakes if we want to use those, that are fairly common theater, because Shoreline Community College has those. I don't know who I know Seattle Scenic Studios used to have a drum that was like made of hardware cloth for things like this. I also know that a bag with slits in it can do if somebody's shaking it constantly, but it does become a significant rigging thing to operate if we're, and it's also the risk of it coming down early in the show. As it's in the middle of the space. I don't know anything about airflow in the space either, especially if it was an open drum type thing. If you'd have constant airflow blowing on exactly the place where we want to do it. It could be. So none of these are to say it's not possible. I just don't know the solution right now.
Thank you. Yeah, pretty mighty HVAC there.
Yeah, Richard, you basically just said everything I wanted to say. So yeah, like that's you covered all of my concerns and thoughts on how to do it. So
Yeah, and so you, from what you're saying, Justin, you don't have a stock tumbler or anything of the scale that we would be looking for.
I think I have one of those fabric setups with the slits in it.
Right, but that's for a full stage thing,
But
not
that
for,
is for the full width of a stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
it's not it's more the tumbler would be more the kind of scale that we'd be looking for something like this.
I have an 8-foot drum that we could for sure use. It's kind of big and conspicuous, but it could be run by light board
So it's an electric one?
on a motor. Yeah.
Mhm.
But that would only get one spot, and if we have 2 different spots for snow,
Because
unless
that's what I was wondering too. It did seem like there were 2 spots, not just one. Outside the door is one of them. And isn't there a moment when the door wagon isn't there that there's another moment of snow?
when she's on the
before that?
phone center stage.
Yeah. So I didn't know if that was going to be in the same location or not. Teresa?
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you say that again? I'm so sorry.
There's 2 moments. Once when she's on the phone and then at the door. Are they going to be in the same physical location?
They're basically going to be in the same location. Yes.
Okay. So it could be using the same mechanism. Can you get us some dimensions on this, the drum that you have? And is it, I mean, I know it's in Portland, I assume, so it's
Yeah, it would
getting
come up
it to and from.
with me. I could bring it up in my pickup. It's it was 8 foot long is the drum itself, and then the pipe that it's on is 10 feet or something.
How big a diameter is it?
It's like
Oh, it's see, I think that's just too big for our space.
18 inches or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty massive.
That just sounds like it's too big for the space.
I think so.
And that's why I was wondering, it's not perfect for the vision, but the stuff falls fairly gently. A couple of strategic shakes of the old shoebox version. We could be able to do something like that, where somebody just delicately shakes it a few times during the scene and hope for the best kind of thing. I've seen it be effective rather than a dump, but just do it jiggled.
And I can be very, very intentional about which moments that would happen. So it doesn't feel like it's a constant.
So somebody doesn't have to sit there going like this for the entire scene.
Yeah, or guess, or sort of have sort of a guess idea. So that feels like maybe the best choice. So thank you for working on problem solving that, everyone. Thank you.
The other issue with that is both with the HVAC in the space, and also we may need to experiment with a few different types of snow to keep it localized. Because a physically heavier snow, something that will drop more straight down, than the plastic stuff that I'm envisioning is quite light and floats and flutters, and it might spread a lot further. So like hole punches, which I've seen be used before, may drop more directly. I'm spitting this out also to see if I get response from other people who've played with different snows, to see if they have thoughts about this. I guess not.
I've always just used the plastic stuff.
I just know it catches air really nicely, but that also means it spreads out really well. So I've seen lightly folded hole punches. I've seen, shaped hole punches used, but not very often.
Thank you.
I'll bring up a bucket of our snow too to throw into the mix and try out.
Okay. So I
when
won't
come
worry
up.
about getting snow, but I can probably help with trying to rig, as I say, basically my vision is a shoebox and tie line kind of rig. And see if we can get something like that to work with finesse. And maybe it's putting mesh on one side of the shoebox so it lives with the mesh faced away, and then it could be shaken more vigorously than it would if it was just an open-sided shoebox. I'm spitballing here, looking for other people to see if they have a better idea.
I think that sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll test it all out during tech
Yeah.
and all of that jazz. So, all right. Well, we're approaching 1 o'clock. So, just want to know if there's any. Yep. I hear that. If there's any last questions or updates anyone would like to provide before we wrap up.
Thank you all.
All
Really,
right.
we've had a beautiful first week of rehearsal, just so you know. We're making
Yeah.
a really beautiful play, I think, with some really wonderful people. So
Absolutely.
So Teresa, just to throw this in, this doesn't need to be, you had talked about wanting things like sirens and the life outside the apartment in the, what I'll call the north apartment, the lower budget apartment.
Yep.
If you have specific moments in the scene that you want to emphasize, I think both Sound and I would appreciate that.
you betcha. So I'll keep that in mind as we're staging, and Michael and I can keep in communication about that. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you, everyone, for your time, for all the updates. It's all come together. And we'll see all y'all. Oh, a second here. Yes, specific times for tech and tech rehearsals. Teresa, do we have any idea about when that's to be determined?
We need to pull together the people that have a stake other than actors as well, to who can be there and what
Right.
can be solved at whatever time. So you and I can talk about that in rehearsal, and we'll work on getting that information to everybody once. It's a little hard for me to know which comes first, making
Right.
sure we know the set and light and sound are ready to go. It sounds like that goes first. And when we feel comfortable predicting that, and when we want to build in some productive time that doesn't require everything. I'm not sure.
Okay, sounds good. That's just, yes, Brian.
Do you have a sense of when you might know, be able to time some action of water?
Not till closer to the run.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry. We are gonna work Saturday on the shower scene. And I can't tell you what stage it'll be by the end of that rehearsal in terms of how much we can predict about it, because there's a lot of elements that come into that and a lot of actor comfort issues that we need to kind of address first before we
Sure.
get into the technical things. We
Sure.
do have an interesting situation in that magically Aspire Connect has a room that is a very accessible shower. And interestingly built, I guess, just for us to show up and rehearse there, but we can actually rehearse in that shower. And there was a real interest in that. Whether that'll happen Saturday or not, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that tonight. But if everyone just wears swimwear or something, we can start to figure out what's going to be needed in terms of water and soaping, and if it's even really soaping, probably not really soaping, because that means we really need to rinse. We've thought through some of those things, but there's a fair amount of complexity around telling you that specific information that you want. So.
Totally get it. Yeah. If you start to notice the 2-minute mark is going to be problematic, that would be helpful to know as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think we will try to avoid that.
Okay. Thank you.
Unless I saw another hand, I think I'll release us, and since we're at a little bit past 1. Again, thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We'll be, oh, yep. All right. Bye, all.